going to deviate a little bit from the how-tos and tips and tricks and just tell you my story because I think it's one that a lot of women need to hear, and I think it's important to know who I am and where do I come from. So when I first got married, I was quite young. I was 17, and I just didn't have a lot of education about my body. I don't know if this really contributed to my lack of desire, but it definitely was part of it. So we had tried to not have sex until we were married, and we did our best. And so when we got married, I was like, well, of course I'm going to want it. Isn't that just the typical thing? And I didn't really. I mean, after the initial excitement wore off about, this thing we're allowed to do, but it didn't really feel good. I didn't have an orgasm for the first year, and it was kind of painful actually. And I also wasn't getting any connection from it because I think we look for a connection in the sexual experience, but the fact was I was getting more connection from talking about projects or our future or big picture things with my husband or doing things together. That's where really I was getting the connection. So I couldn't figure out what the big hype was all about. My husband kind of felt differently than me, and we found ourselves fighting about sex a lot. I didn't really have anyone to talk to. I just felt kind of ashamed about the fact that I didn't want it and that we were fighting about it. I wondered what was wrong with me. Was I broken? Was something going on? And about 5 years into our marriage, we decided that we needed to get some help. Actually, I decided that we needed to get some help. I firmly believe that women are the spark of change in many relationships. And so I went ahead and found somebody. I couldn't find anybody who specialized in this department, but it was somebody close to our house, and we went, and it was so awkward and uncomfortable. It was in this tiny little space. We were almost knee to knee, and he was asking me about some really personal stuff that I had never spoken to about anyone, which is hilarious considering what I do now. So we had a couple of sessions with him, maybe more than a couple of sessions, and it didn't really do much. And then unfortunately that continued like a string of looking for solutions that maybe provided some temporary help, but nothing that really worked in the long run. I would always go back to experiencing anxiety whenever we would get intimate, avoiding my husband, wanting to run away from his touch, not looking forward to going on vacation because I felt the pressure and expectation of that, and really just feeling crummy about myself. What's wrong with me? And thankfully, something really good came out of that exploration, trying to find some help, which was I kind of fell in love with marriage education and marriage growth. I loved learning new communication techniques. I loved trying them out on my husband. He's my ultimate guinea pig. And I just love understanding how human relationships function. So I decided to start a blog about marriage, and then pretty soon after, I trained to become a marriage coach. Still fighting about sex, have you? We had not solved that one, and it would really almost go in like a 3-month cycle where we would have like a huge fight about it about 3 months in, and we just kind of blamed each other. I think I was blaming myself. Maybe he was blaming me a little bit. I was blaming him. It was just a big mishmash. And so I started to work with couples, and I started to really grow in courage, because all the traditional advice I had been given up to that point hadn't been useful or helpful and actually had made things worse. So from just do it, that, it's good for your marriage, just go for it, that was incredibly unhelpful, made me feel icky, gross. Sex and pressure and pushing just does not work well together. From, just have a bath, just relax, to take turns or compromise. And the thing is, with sexuality, you can't compromise. Otherwise, you just end up feeling violated. And that is not safe enough to enjoy the sexual experience together. So I grew in courage. And another really important thing happened was I was listening to a podcast with 5 other men, and they had all had experiences with pornography. And I thought, wow, interesting, that's 100%. And so I just went and asked my husband, do you ever watch porn? Never thinking he would have said yes. And he did. And it turns out he had a pornography addiction for the whole of our marriage. And that kind of launched us into understanding about porn, researching, learning, and ultimately healing from it together, because I needed to do some healing and he needed to do as well. And that's definitely something that I've learned along the way, is that you can make great strides in your sexual experience and wanting it, but if porn is there, it always kind of hindered you from going that next step. So then once I gained in courage and we healed that part, I just decided to trust myself and trust what had felt good up until then and what had not felt good up until then. And I went for it, and I learned that women, I believe, need to be the leaders of the sexual experience to create safety and trust. And men make fantastic responders, that you get whatever you need as a woman to feel safe and have no pressure. And you can lower the expectations of yourself, and your husband can lower his excitement, actually. Then your sexuality can shine. I learned how to reduce shame that I had kind of accumulated over the years of my body and also of the sexual experience. I'm trying to think of all the things I teach. So now I do teach this. You probably know this already, but I created a program with all of the methods that work for me, because we need more specialists in this area. We need more people who are really focused on this one dynamic in a marriage. And so now I've helped over like 700 women want more sex and go from don't touch me to initiating, which is really exciting. And I cannot tell you the amount of freedom I feel now. I am still amazed that I had been able to heal this in my marriage, and I am not broken, and there's nothing wrong with me, and I fundamentally haven't changed as a human being. I haven't gone on any supplements. I haven't changed my testosterone levels. I haven't found some magic pink pill that doesn't even work. No, I continue to be just Janna. I didn't learn any magic techniques. All it was is restructuring the sexual experience in our marriage, and which is what I teach now to other women. So I hope that was slightly interesting for you to know my background story and how I really went from not wanting it ever or at all to now really, really enjoying it and seeing it as a source of creativity and productivity and joy in my life. So I'll talk to you soon. Hope that was interesting. Bye.